Welcome to A Taste of AZ podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by our friends at Cien Agaves. They have some awesome fun coming up for Cinco de Mayo, but they're also a great place for you to grab Mexican food for lunch or dinner, enjoy a margarita, or a tequila tasting flight. Make sure to follow Cien Agaves on social media and visit their website for more information. Now, let's jump into today's episode.
So we're in Old Town. We are at Cien Agaves. This place is, I've never been inside, but every time I've walked by, I'm like, that place looks like a lot of fun. So I apologize for never coming in up until this point, but thank you for having us in.
Okay,
well, thank you for being
coming
here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's meet everybody. Let's start with this gentleman down here. Who are you and what is your role here at Cien Agaves?
Yep. My name's Rocky Jimenez, and I'm co-owner of Cien Agaves. We started it 17 years ago, and I'm a proud owner of it. We love it here, and we're happy to be part of the Old Town community.
Nice.
I'm Katie Haley, and I'm our director of HR and marketing.
Okay, excellent. And
I'm Bob Shulkin. I'm the other co-owner and happy to be here.
Nice. Well, thank you guys once again. I like the decor we have in the background. I love that art style. Is that a particular style? Or
It is. We actually came across it right when we were opening.
Yeah.
Actually, we had a different art set in here when we were first opening 17 years ago, and we had the good fortune of meeting El Moises. He's an artist, a local artist from Arizona. He now resides in Albuquerque, New Mexico, but he's from here, and he wanted to have his art up in here. We loved it, and ever since we've filled our restaurant with his artwork. His murals are on our patio as well as on our brick walls inside the restaurant.
Yeah,
and it fits our theme and ambiance, and it works really well for us.
yeah. I dig it. I dig just this style of art in general. I really enjoy like the Hispanic art, but having the same consistent artist just kind of brings it all together too.
It really does.
Yeah.
He calls it Chicano pop art.
Okay,
and,
nice.
It fits our theme perfectly because kind of that's how we look ourselves is that kind of theme. So
Yeah. I dig it. Well, when we first came in, we were trying to figure out, I think we agreed from the beginning we'll do it upstairs because you guys open at 11 and right now it's 10:20. But I really wanted to do it downstairs in front of that brick wall with that mural that he painted.
That's beautiful.
It's a really cool mural. There's a lot of people who take a lot of pictures, and
Yeah.
you see it on Instagram and social media. It's really neat.
Yeah, I love it. So, let's go back. You said 17 years you guys been open?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Like, how did you guys decide to open up a restaurant and probably the cheapest rent in Arizona, right?
Well, not necessarily. Bob and I met, we met about 20 years ago. Bob was running a restaurant, and I was a sales rep for a liquor distributor. We became fast friends, and we both had the want to own our own restaurant and be entrepreneurs, and we love the restaurant business. So the two of us started working on a business plan, and we both wanted the same thing. We love the Mexican food and the Mexican culture. So we started working on our plan to make Cien Agaves. At that time, not a lot of places were doing. At least not a lot of the Mexican restaurants were doing, fresh ingredients. So we really based the concept off of, first and foremost, fresh ingredients.
Yeah.
And it starts with our margarita. We won a lot of awards for the margarita, and it kind of put us on the map, so to speak. But we use fresh squeezed lime juice. We make everything in-house from simple syrup to you name it, the prickly pear juice that you get in your prickly pear margarita. We don't buy any store-bought syrups, things like that.
Nice.
So we took that idea of everything from scratch, everything with high-quality ingredients, and that's what you see today.
Yeah. Nice. So, and you had owned a restaurant before?
No, I didn't own it.
You're at a restaurant.
I worked
okay.
for a local chain.
Okay, gotcha.
That was here back then, and we met up and we decided to start working on this. Spent 9 months every Monday in my kitchen at home and cooked up and ate for 30 minutes and cleaned up for 2 hours.
Nice, yeah. Such is the industry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But consuming probably tequila that whole time and margaritas and testing them.
Menu testing.
Yeah, no, that came after we opened, really.
Okay, yeah.
We needed it.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, how do you go about that? Are either of you guys trained chefs, or like you have a
No,
culinary
our
background?
original chef was actually one of my employees that I
Okay.
brought over, and we all worked together, kind of tweaking all the dishes. It started out, we opened up 2 months before the Great Recession officially began.
yeah.
So that was kind of a twist and turn in the story was that, and we were going to have kind of a menu that was authentic Mexican, high, a little bit higher end, but then we kind of went to more affordable, fresh made ingredients and higher quality ingredients in your favorite Mexican food, like burritos and fajitas and all the things that we sell today. So
I love it. Yeah. So how do you land on menu? Like, what is something that as you're testing in the kitchen, like that's it? Like, what are there certain things you're looking for?
Sure. I think, when Bob was talking about our original chef, his name was Rodrigo, our original chef Rodrigo, those 9 months of being in Bob's kitchen, we went through a lot of recipes that Bob and myself, we enjoyed or liked, and that Rodrigo brought to fruition.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just tasted and tested. Some of those items are still on the menu, and some of the favorites, like our tinga taco. It's probably our most popular taco.
Okay.
Our shredded beef taco. Those are two of our flagship tacos, if you will. And then newer things came along. Over the years, like any restaurant or any business, you kind of adapt to your surroundings. And
Sure.
like Bob said, during the Great Recession, people wanted value. They didn't the steak that we had on the menu, or some of these dishes just weren't selling. So we adapted, and it became more of like a Tex-Mex style, which is great because it's the style of food I like to eat.
Sure. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
And that most of us do. And
Yep.
but yeah, a lot of the recipes are original. The salsas, the roasted tomatillo or our fresh jalapeno salsa, that's the same salsa. And there's a lot of the recipes. I would say a good portion of the menu is still from back when we first started.
If it works, it works.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was the tequila and obviously the margarita was a big part of you when you guys opened up, right?
Yeah, I mean, that started from the name, cien is 100 in Spanish. Agave is the plant that you make the agave out of. So we carry all 100% blue agave tequilas and 100 of those agave spirits.
Nice. Nice. And you're going to educate us a little bit later on, because I was going to ask what the blue agave is, but we'll wait till your part. So I'll hammer you with questions.
Oh, great.
So it was fresh made ingredients, high quality, tequila, and so that was the approach. Right?
That's it. It was a
plan.
pretty simple approach, but again, it wasn't something that everybody was doing.
Sure.
I was in the bar business like Bob, and back then, people were still making margaritas with Rose's lime juice.
Yeah.
It was that kind of those neon margaritas from the 90s and whatnot. Through working for a liquor distributor, I had gotten the opportunity to travel to Tequila, Mexico, several times, and got to taste what they were making at the distilleries and the margaritas they were making. And so when we started talking about kind of our beverage program, we wanted that. We wanted that high quality, and it's a really basic recipe, and a lot of restaurants do that now.
Yeah.
But it's fresh squeezed lime juice, homemade simple syrup, 100% blue agave tequila, and a triple sec. That's it. But that fresh approach is really it's simple ingredients, fresh, and that's what we went with. That's our base margarita.
Yeah.
And from there, everything else is kind of variations of that.
I like that.
But yeah, that's what we wanted to stay true to that tequila culture, and I think we've done that. We carry, like Bob said, 100 tequilas. They're 100% blue agave or 100 agave spirits. Some of those are mezcals.
Okay. Nice. I like mezcal.
Yeah, with the popularity of mezcal lately, right?
For sure. Yep.
When we first opened, I think we had maybe two or
Maybe two.
Yeah, maybe two.
Yeah.
I think we're up to about 10 now. If
Okay.
I'm not mistaken. I guess I could look at our menu.
But don't look. You have to guess. No.
They've definitely taken on, become more popular. I think with people wanting to try different things and new things and smoky spirits. Obviously, the mezcal brings that smoke into your cocktail, and they do really well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I dig it. So, what caused you guys to choose this location? Because it's been the same location from day one, right?
Yeah. So, I think it wasn't necessary. We knew that we wanted to be in Old Town Scottsdale. There's not that many choices in Old Town Scottsdale. They're far and few between where somebody empties out.
Sure.
It didn't used to be that way. They used to empty out a lot more.
Okay.
But I think there's a lot, just with the popularity of Old Town Scottsdale, now it's super hard. But this one became available, so this is kind of where we went. And it was a tough location at first because this building changed over quite a few times in the early 2000s before we came in 2007.
As other restaurants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a club. There was a, like a Spanish-style restaurant. Before it was us, it was kind of a nondescript type of restaurant.
Sure. Yeah.
So it came available. We, bought the rights to come in and do our own thing.
Yeah.
And so it's worked out well for us. So we're happy.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity. I mean, we both Bob and I wanted to be in Old Town Scottsdale.
Yeah.
It wasn't what it is today per se.
I was saying 17 years ago, that was
right. Especially this
different.
part of Old Town. It still had a lot of the tourist shops and the jewelry shops. There's a lot more restaurants and bars and more nightlife now than there was then. But we both saw the potential, and I think that we made the right decision. Obviously,
sure.
Being here. It's just the rich history of it, I mean, this is the original Scottsdale. This is where the founders were. This is the first bank. This is the first, this was actually one of the first banks that the building we're in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool story. When we first opened, a lady came in and she was kind of wandering around the restaurant. I could, she was giving it, the eyeball. And I said, hey, is there anything I can help you with? And she told me she lived here as a kid. And I said, you lived here as a kid? And she said her dad, it was a savings and loan.
Okay.
And so I actually looked into it a little bit and ended up, there are some of those savings and loans businesses, let's just put it this way, they got shut down.
Yeah.
It may not have been, the best of endings, but she said her dad was a banker and he ran the savings and loan that was in this building. And this upstairs dining room that we're in now was actually their apartment. And they lived here, and she said her mom had custom-made Murphy beds and all the furniture, so when her dad's associates would come up and have meetings and stuff, they wouldn't have their beds or their kitchenette out.
Yeah.
So she said it was all custom built, but it was an apartment, and downstairs was a bank. So it was the history of the building is pretty cool. I mean, it's an 80-year-old building now, but it's been a bank, it's been a gym. Our walk-in refrigerator at one time was a sauna.
Okay.
That's a whole nother story.
Talk about the opposing worlds, right?
Right? Yeah. It's been quite a few different things. And then I think in the 70s, Bob, it became a Chinese restaurant that a lot of people that are natives of Scottsdale that have been around for a while, it was the Emperor's Garden?
Emperor's Garden.
Emperor's Garden.
For about 30 or 40 years.
For about 30
wow.
years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they were successful. I know that they were there for a long time, and they used the apartment. I think some of their employees and stuff would live up here in the apartment.
Yeah.
And then downstairs. And then at some point in the early 2000s, it was remodeled to make the upstairs a bar and dining area.
Yeah.
And then, the rest is history.
Yeah. I like this upstairs. This upstairs is really cool. You have a patio out on the side as well, right?
Yeah.
So the layout's great. It affords us the ability to do a lot of large parties.
Yeah.
So if you want to have your birthday here or your rehearsal dinner, or, we've hosted weddings up here, graduation parties, you name it. Any large party, we can host up to 120. And Katie has been great about, taking care of all the large parties. She books all the events for us, but we do quite a bit. So, we are able to do smaller parties like just in the dining room or all the way up through our bar upstairs. There's a indoor-outdoor bar that you saw when you walked up here.
Yeah.
And then we have the balcony that we just put on a couple years ago that faces First Avenue.
That's okay. Yeah, I was wondering because when I walked up the stairs, I didn't see how do you get to the balcony.
So you come up the stairs,
Yep.
and then you instead of coming this way, you take a right at the bar, and
Okay.
you walk towards the front. There's a balcony that sits 36 people.
Nice.
It has
Yeah.
a full bar that wraps around, so you can sit at the bar
Nice.
and face the street and enjoy, your margaritas and your tinga tacos.
Yeah.
And good people watching.
Yeah. Oh,
A lot of good people watching.
I'm in. Yeah. That is the best.
We're
So-
next to Patty, so there's all kinds of people watching.
yeah.
It's a fun crowd to watch, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of bachelorette parties on the pedal bikes.
Yeah.
So I could sit out there all day and just watch people.
Do you guys work there sometimes? Just like, and then you get distracted. Like, what the hell are they doing over
Our
there?
office is actually across the street, so we actually can see the front of the restaurant from
Okay.
it. So it's good people watching as well.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. I feel like that was like kind of a goal of yours. Like, let's figure out a way that we can watch people because I could just do that for hours, especially in Old Town, right? And this,
Yeah.
you were telling me like right now, well, spring training just ended, but
Right.
like spring training is like your guys' bread and butter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like you get crowds, people from all around, probably.
Oh yeah, we get people from around the world,
Yeah.
and it's not just during spring training, but spring training, is by far the busiest month of the year.
Yeah.
But from October to mid-May, it's pretty busy.
Yeah.
So that's the bulk of our season.
My wife works. She has an office. Like, I don't know if that's it. It's like an Indian school, and it's right by Fraser's. Like, she's
Oh, yeah.
a property manager. I think it's called the Drinkwater now. And sometimes she's like, Old Town is like chaos.
Yeah.
Like, she'll go to Chop Shop or somewhere for lunch. She'll like, it's chaos down here. I'm like, it's spring training. Like,
Yeah.
which is great. I mean, that's great.
amazing.
Yeah. So, well, let's. Your role here, right? So, how long have you been here?
So I've been here for 11 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time. Started as a hostess.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay, from the working all the way up.
All
and-
the way up. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I started as a hostess, moved to a server, trainer, and then a part-time manager, full-time manager, GM, regional manager, and then the corporate position that I'm in today.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So obviously
Lot
it's a
of
company
moves.
that you like to work with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, these guys aren't
Absolutely.
too bad. But
No,
yeah.
not at all.
So, well, what is your role? What has it evolved into now? Like he was saying that you book events and
Yeah.
we connected.
So I kind of have two different hats. So I do all of our human resources for both of our concepts. So we
Okay.
have cien agaves and then Nello's, which is an Awatuki. And then I also do our marketing.
Okay.
And then I also do our large party booking for here because it's just too busy and it's too difficult for the management staff to kind of handle it in-house.
Okay.
So we pulled it out of house.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. And well, let's go through because we're going to get to part two and get this tequila education rocking. But what are some of your guys' favorite? Let's start with you, Katie. What is on the drink side?
Ooh.
What is a couple of your favorites?
The prickly pear margarita is
Okay.
definitely my favorite. I think you do see them around town. I think what makes ours so unique is what Rocky had mentioned earlier, is that we actually get the prickly pear in-house. We de-seed it, juice it, and then that is what you're actually finding in the drink is
Yeah.
just the pure juice from the fruit.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
that's kind of a fun thing.
People from out of town probably love getting
They
that too,
do,
right?
yeah.
Like it's a taste of place. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's super unique to Arizona and unique to our restaurant too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the tequila that is it the
It's so all of our specialty margaritas, most of them are made with Jose Cuervo Tradicional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What made you choose that one? Like
So I think it's a great tequila. It's 100% agave, and then I think it's been around since 1812. So.
Yeah.
There's a huge, lineage of it, and it's recognizable, and the taste profile fits.
yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes it gets underestimated. A lot of people remember Cuervo from Cuervo Gold, or this is actually the first tequila that Cuervo made. That's
Okay.
why it's Tradicional.
Gotcha.
So it's 100% agave.
Yeah.
It was Cuervo's first tequila, and it's a really, really good and true expression of what agave tastes like.
Okay.
So it kind of, especially for margaritas, you don't want something that's sweet or you don't want something that's overly like, I don't want to say too smooth, but you want to, you know, when you're drinking tequila, you want to taste it a little bit.
For sure.
So
Yeah.
you get that herbal, you know, earthy spirit from Jose Cuervo Tradicional that kind of, you know, cuts through the lime juice and everything so that you get a well-balanced margarita.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, I have a friend that lives across the street, and he loves like collecting, you know, bottles of whiskey and tequila, like high end stuff. When he moved in, he didn't realize how much I actually drank, so we went through his bottles pretty quickly. He's like, "Geez, I would bring the craft beer to the party, and he would, and I'm like, hey, I'm bringing beers." And then we realized like dollar for dollar, it wasn't really equal. You know,
Yeah.
I was bringing $20 worth of craft beer. He was like $100 worth of you know, tequila. But he had this bottle of Cuervo, and I can't remember what it was. And yeah, you're right. I had just that misconception of Cuervo was that Cuervo Gold, right? And then I tasted, I'm like, this is one of the best things I've ever drank.
You
Like,
probably drank Jose Cuervo Reserva de la Familia. Does
was
that
it
ring
like
a
in
bell?
a box, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
We
a
do-
painted box.
Yes. Yeah.
So all those are downstairs on the wall. So we actually have a box for every year we've been open.
Wow,
On the
no
wall
way.
downstairs. Yeah, they're super
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
We made it into an art display on the wall. When you're walking out, you'll see it. It's on a wall.
Yeah.
And it, like she said, every year that we've been open, we've saved a box from it. And each box is from a different artist that they commissioned that year
Ooh, nice.
to design and paint that box. It's a pretty
Yeah.
cool, you know, little twist on their box. But the Cuervo Reserva de la Familia that we're talking about, it's an extra añejo. So
Okay.
it's at least aged 3 years. And that oak, you know, when it's aged in small oak barrels, it imparts a lot of that vanilla and oaky flavor. So
Yeah.
it's more of a sipping tequila as opposed to a margarita tequila.
For sure. Gotcha. Okay. I think that's cool. I think that's cool that you guys that's you know, because I think maybe these days like the hip thing is to like, oh, we have a tequila that nobody's heard of or something, you know, which is there's something cool, but this is like, hey, these are some of the OGs. Like these are they make good stuff. Right?
Sure.
Don't judge
Yeah.
them by their bottom of the shelf, whatever that is. No, I think that's really cool. So prickly pear for you.
Yep.
Bob, what about you? What's a go-to drink for you?
I like the cucumber just
Okay,
because it's
okay.
Refreshing.
Jalapeno and cucumber?
Yeah, I
Or
like
just
it both
cucumber?
ways actually.
Okay.
But I actually prefer just the cucumber
Okay.
because I just like a refreshing drink if I'm going to sit back and drink it.
Nothing more refreshing than a cucumber either,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Rocky, what about you? What is a
I'm
go-to?
pretty basic. I love our house margarita.
Okay.
It really is. It's a true expression of the tequila and the margarita. But, you know, the skinny margarita is great too. It's made with Maestro de Bell, which is a Cristalino.
Okay.
What all that means is you know, it's filtered out. It's I believe it's charcoal filtered. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, charcoal
filtered to get out the color. So it's a very clean, but it's a reposado. So it's aged, so it's a little bit softer.
Yeah.
And then we use agave nectar. That's kind of what makes it skinny, right? It's you know, that and fresh squeezed lime juice. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's a really clean, light margarita. It's really nice.
I like that. I like the simplicity too, right? Like it sounds like with the food, with the drinks, it's like one of those things where it's simple, not easy necessarily,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
It's a very simple but very deliberate, you know, because you can put all kinds of stuff in, right?
Yeah.
Add
Yeah.
this, do this, but if it's like, hey, there's 3 ingredients in there and it's fantastic.
That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I dig it. So, well, that naturally. Hold on, I got one question before we get into the food. What is the gigante?
Yeah.
Is it
Gigante.
Gigante? All right. What is that? I'm like, whoa, 56 ounces. That's all I saw.
It's a 56-ounce margarita, so it's huge, and
Yeah.
you need 2 to share it.
Okay.
But it's great for parties. Bachelorettes love it. Bachelor parties love it.
Yeah.
You know, just sharing drinks with friends. It's also a great price point because
Yeah.
you get like 4 margaritas, and then you can split it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it like you just put your straw in and everybody drinks out
Yeah,
of the
so
same
we have
thing?
big straws that
Okay.
go into this
Yeah.
huge margarita glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
The play on the name comes from we're right next to Giants Spring Training Stadium, so we
yeah,
get
yeah.
a lot of Giants fans and a lot of customers from that. So
Sure.
when we were coming up with a name, well, it made sense to call it the Giant Margarita.
Oh, we have
So,
a
great.
Gigante's shirt right there.
yeah.
Yeah. It's
So-
a jersey.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So for
Yeah.
MLB teams, I don't know, we do all these Spanish jerseys up here, but those are all actual real jerseys. and they'll have like Hispanic Heritage Days,
Okay.
at the ballparks.
Yeah.
And so for the Giants, that's one of the jerseys. It's the Gigantes. So
Like that.
hence the Gigante margarita.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perfect. Nailed it. I mean, it makes so much sense on so many levels. Nice work on that one. Yeah. So the food. Before we wrap this up, I mean, I'm looking at this stuff, and it just, I mean, you had me at enchilada, fajita bowl. What are some of your guys's, like, when you're having a meal after your shift or whatever? What are you guys going for?
Well, a lot of times I go, if I want to eat on the healthier side, I go for the Beets Bowl.
Okay.
That's a really good bowl
I
with
saw that,
Brussels
yeah.
sprouts
That's
and
interesting.
dried cranberries. It's just a really nice balanced bowl that's really healthy.
Like chimichurri and grilled corn. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it is very good. And then if I don't want to eat that way, then I eat the birria tacos.
Okay.
because that's
Have you guys always carried the birria tacos, or is
it's relatively new for us,
Okay.
probably in the last year or so.
Yeah.
A couple, like 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
It's kind of new for just across the board, right? I mean, I know
Yeah.
it's been around for a long time, but the popularity of it has just
Wildly
been
increased.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad to. Well, quesabirria taco. So is
Yeah.
that like a quesadilla? With,
It's basically our marinated shredded beef
Yeah.
with mixed with cheese and onions, and it's just a really flavorful taco. And then it's put on the flat top to kind of grill it shut.
okay.
You know.
I see what you're saying. Yes. I would have gone for that 10 times out of 10, honestly. My wife would love that Beets one, but I don't know, man. I can't. Yeah. So what about you, Katie? What do you go for?
So, well, Bob stole my first one because I
Beets?
normally do the Beets Bowl.
Okay.
But I also love our ceviche. Super
okay.
fresh, delicious. It's also on like the lighter side of our appetizers and menu. And then I think the best way to get like a taste for our menu is going through the tacos. We let people like combo and mix match tacos, which is really cool because you don't have to get one plate with just the same 3 tacos.
Nice.
So the island shrimp is one of my favorites, and it's super unique. And then our pollo asada and our carnitas is delicious.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like the Tecate beer battered shrimp.
Yeah.
Right? Like I like the beer batter.
Yep.
And sweet and spicy island sauce. Man, we're eating after this.
It's
right?
really, yeah, we are, yeah.
And Rocky, how about you? I think I know what you're going to say.
Well,
but,
I don't know if you know. I like everything.
Okay.
I hear, pretty much every day.
Okay.
And have been doing that for 17 years, hence my
Yeah.
physique here. But, I would say you have to start off with our chips and salsa and our guacamole.
Nice.
I think, hands down, we have the best guacamole. Again, getting back to the fresh approach, we make sure that we're making it every morning, every day. And the idea is we keep low amounts on so you're getting it made fresh. You're not eating, 2-day-old guacamole or anything like that.
Nice.
So, we top it with pomegranates. It's really good. We
Yeah.
get a lot of compliments. I think a lot of people come back for that. From there, my favorite tacos are probably the carne asada. I'll
Okay.
do tacos or burritos,
Yeah.
either way. Our fajita burrito with carne asada, which is our grilled skirt steak. So we use a high-grade skirt steak. We marinate it in citrus and chilies, and then put it on the grill. And it's excellent. Like I said, in a taco, or the taco has our guacamole, like an avocado salsa on it,
Okay.
which is a perfect finish for it. And then, in the burrito, it's a fajita burrito. So it is what it sounds like. It's everything that you'd have in fajitas, but wrapped up in a 13-inch flour tortilla.
I like that.
It's probably my go-to right there.
Nice.
What about the combo number 5?
And the combo number 5, because I can't make up my mind for anything.
Yeah, I
And
like
so
that.
you
What
get,
is-
you get to pick your taco, you get an enchilada, you get rice and beans, you get a little of everything.
Yeah.
I love it. I love our red sauce for our enchiladas. It's delicious. And then usually for the tacos, you can go with the shredded beef or carne asada or any of our tacos.
I thought you were going to say tinga because you brought that up a couple times. So I'm like, it's on his mind, but maybe
Yeah.
that's what you ordered today.
Our tinga's popular for sure. That's my wife's favorite.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see what you guys bring out. We'll get some photos and some video of this to help promote the episode, and I get to eat. But before we go, thank you guys again for having us here and being guests on the show. Anything else you guys want to add? I see that you guys have happy hour. Taco Tuesday, all that stuff, I assume, will be on your guys' website. People can check out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, we do Taco Tuesday. We've been doing it for almost the entirety of our restaurant being here. Very popular. We have Cinco de Mayo coming up, which is exciting.
Woo!
So,
Nice.
yeah, we have mariachis playing during happy hour. And on that whole weekend, actually, we have things going on. We have different tequila tastings going on, mariachis.
Beer
we have
tastings.
a DJ on Saturday. So just trying to make it, a lively atmosphere for people to enjoy our food and cocktails.
Yeah, Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco
Yeah.
de Mayo
At
weekend.
Cien Agaves.
At Cien Agaves. You
Come
can't beat
here,
it.
get all the stuff. Combo number 5, which we're about to wrap up here, but I do think it's interesting. There is no combos 4, 3, 2, or 1. Is that a play on Mambo number 5?
That is.
Okay, all right.
That is. You got it. We when we opened, we weren't that combination restaurant, but
Yeah.
but there was kind of a need for something where you get an assortment. So
Yeah.
we went straight to number 5.
Combo number 5.
Yeah,
I
so it
love
makes
it.
you want to kind of.
All right, we'll get a different video of him dancing. Yeah.
Real quick reminder to follow Cien Agaves on social media and check out all of their upcoming events, including their Cinco de Mayo fun. Now, let's get back into today's episode. We've done a little host switch here. I am now on the podcast. If you are not familiar with me, I am Luke from A Taste of AZ, here with our new team member, Rachel, and some of the guests that were previously on the earlier part of this episode. But we're going to dig into a little bit of the educational component of tequila and agave spirits in general, I would imagine. But before we get too deep into it, would you give us a little bit of information about the different educational programs that you guys offer here?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things when Bob and Rocky started the concept was to make sure that we were able to be tequila educators. So a couple of the things that we do with the staff is, regardless of position, they actually all go through a basic tequila education course. So they should know, how long it's aged for the different classifications. Some of the basics about the production and how tequila is made, where it's made. And then, a lot of the times year over year, we'll send key employees down to Mexico to go and actually tour distilleries and, learn kind of firsthand and get kind of ingrained in the culture. And they all come back falling more in love with it. So
I think it's awesome that you guys do that, because it is one of those more convoluted, I guess you could say, spirits, because it's attached to different regions with the name, and there's different varieties of it in terms of barrel aging, and there's so much complexity to it. And then of course they come out with Cristalinos recently just to add another thing to the mix. But I love that you guys do that, because then when people come in that know nothing about tequila except maybe that they like tequila and a margarita or something, they can dig into it a little bit more. And I think those always create a cooler dinner. And then next time they're having a tequila, they can brag about their knowledge to their friends, and that brings them back to their visit here.
Absolutely. And I think something fun that we also do is our Agave Hall of Fame. So it actually is a list that has all of our 100 agaves on it. And people can go through and kind of taste and find what they like. So it's nice to be able to have a server that can, knows what we carry and, the basics, and can kind of gear things towards, let's say, like you normally drink vodka. Well, then you'd probably end up with a Blanco. You're not going to sell them really smoky mezcal necessarily.
Sure.
So that's kind of a fun way to tour guide our menu too, is by doing that.
Yeah, and I'm a big tequila guy myself. It's interesting because when it starts to get colder out, I shift towards whiskey. And then as soon as it starts getting warmer out, I shift back towards tequila. It seems like that's a yearly thing. And of course, we're starting to get a little bit of some warmer days here. So I'm excited to taste what you brought out. But do you guys, on your list of agaves, do you just have tequila, or do you have other agave spirits as well?
So our list has kind of shifted over the years. So it used to be 100% blue agave tequilas. Now it's 100 agave spirits. So most of the list is still tequila. But we are seeing a wider range of mezcals being added to our list every year, and Rocky actually will handpick those.
Okay, nice. And so let's dig into the tequilas a little bit. Can you give us the rundown, the basics of what tequila is and why it's so special?
Sure. I'm going to keep it really basic, because I think for this it works really well. Is that there's basically the tequila is going to taste today come down to 4 different categories, and that's Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, And then there's extra añejos, and then the newest category, which you had mentioned, it's been around for about 10 years now, is the
I didn't realize
Cristalinos. Yeah, they're becoming more popular, and there's more brands doing them. The first one I remember is this Maestro Dobel, but I don't know if it was the first ever. So each of those categories really have to do with aging, and they're aging in two types of barrels by tequila laws, and that can be in American oak or in French oak, like Limousine oak. Blancos aren't aged at all generally. They can be aged up to 2 months, and there is a couple tequilas that slightly age them, but in general, Blancos don't see any oak. It's coming right from the stills into the bottles. And that's going to be your truest expression of tequila, because you're not seeing anything else besides the agave spirit in there. The second category is reposados, and reposado translates to rested. So they're rested in oak barrels from 2 months up to a year. So, and depending on the tequilas, the brand, you see all kinds of variations. 2 month ones that, barely see any oak because you still want a lot of that agave spirit, all the way up to a year. And then the third category is añejo or año, which is a year. So your third category is a year to 3 years. So anything over a year is really an añejo. And that's when you're going to get a lot of the oak barrels imparting their flavors. That's where you get your vanillas and your oakiness and your, sometimes chocolate flavors, things like that. And it really rounds out the tequilas and softens them. And then extra añejos. Extra añejos are 3 years and up. That's kind of your super premium category. They're very expensive because they're resting for quite a while. And those are your sipping tequilas. You're not going to mix those. You're not going to have them in a margarita necessarily. I mean, we've had customers order margaritas, and we're happy to serve them. But traditionally, you're going to have those neat, in a snifter. You're going to take your time with it, almost like a fine whiskey or scotch kind of cocktail, drink. And then Cristalinos. We touched on that earlier. But it can be a reposado or a añejo, and those are so they treat them just like a reposado or añejo. They age them, but then they take that finished product and then charcoal filter them to take out the coloring, and it's basically a very clean reposado or añejo. So those are the categories. Tequila in general has to come from 5 different states in Mexico. Those states are basically, through the history of tequila, where they've deemed the best growing regions to make the best tequila, agave spirit. So those, let me see if I can remember these. The 5 states of tequila are Guanajuato, Michoacán, Jalisco, Tamaulipas, and Nayarit. Those are the 5 states. The state that has almost all tequila comes from, or the majority of them, is going to be Jalisco, and that is where the town of Tequila is in Jalisco. If you are looking at a map, the biggest city next to it is Guadalajara. So a lot of times when we go down there, we're staying or visiting Guadalajara, but the town of Tequila is in the Matitan Valley, which is where the majority of tequilas come from.
So similar to like champagne wine, tequila is more tied to a specific region than the exact recipe that is being made, correct?
You hit it right in the head. We use that analogy all the time.
Yep.
Just like champagne,
It's a
champagne
destination
is a
of
sparkling
origin.
wine, but not all sparkling wines are champagne. And that's exactly what tequila is. So there's other agave spirits like mezcals, there's bacanoras or sotols, there's other spirits from Mexico that are made with agave. But to be tequila, you have to come from one of those 5 states. You have to be at least 51% blue agave, which is a specific type of agave, because there's hundreds of agaves. And those are the pretty much.
And distilled twice, I believe.
Okay. And distilled twice.
And so it's interesting too, because like for me, whenever I'm purchasing a bottle, a lot of the times I'll look to the recommendations of someone like you guys that knows what you're talking about, that's tried a lot of them. They've built out a menu of curated tequilas that check certain boxes. But it's also an industry that's kind of known for having additives and things like that a lot. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's becoming more of a conversation, is the additive portion of it. A lot of people prefer things that are additive free. To be tequila, as a spirit, it can only allow for 1% of additives,
Okay.
and that's across the board. So that's something that the CRT does look into. That's the regulatory council that monitors tequila and its production. But there's a certain other, sector where people want specifically non-additives. They want all of the sugars to come from the blue agave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, if you like what you're drinking, go ahead and drink it.
Absolutely.
I think certain mixologists might scoff at me for that. And I think, to that extent, there is some reason for it, right? Like Casamigos is one that you hear getting dragged through the mud kind of a lot because, they have the celebrity name, which makes it more high profile. And I believe they have some additives. But what are these tequilas? I think you explained 2 of them here, and then you've brought some more for this tasting. What are these tequilas, if you could run through with me a little bit?
Yeah, so what you guys have in your glasses is the Tradicional Blanco and Tradicional Repo. And then we also have Gran Centenario Añejo, and then we've got Maestro Dobel Diamante Cristalino. I probably mispronounced that, but these are all different classifications. So they're all different aging groups. So if you guys want, feel free to try the Blanco.
Yeah,
that
while
you
we
have.
taste it, go ahead and kind of give us the breakdown of why you maybe like this specific Blanco or what you might look for in Blancos.
Yeah, so overall with tequila, I think why I fell in love with tequila for a number of different reasons, but one of them is that I find it really easy to understand that the Blanco is the base. So throughout, anybody's lines, the Blanco is the base. And then it gets aged and it turns into a Reposado. And then it gets aged again and it turns into an Añejo. So, down the line, you get those base flavorings from the plant. And this is the most natural form of what that plant kind of tastes like. So if you've never actually tasted a cooked agave, you can actually pick it up in the spirit.
Yeah. Well, as I was explaining before, I'm definitely a tequila guy.
Yeah.
So I've tasted my fair share. Rachel actually is, I don't know on the spirit side, but I do know that she is very well versed in the beer side of things and has a knowledgeable palate, at least in that respect. What are you getting when you take a sip of that?
Yeah, I am not well versed in spirits at all. I partake in them and I enjoy drinking them, but I am not well versed at all.
I think that's a huge thing, though, is like you like what you like. I'm not here to tell you one thing's better than another. I think, it really just has to do with like what your palate enjoys. Mm-hmm. I am definitely not the person to go, I get apple, I get cinnamon, I get all of these things.
That, yeah.
I just don't. I don't have that refined of a palate. Mm-hmm. But I do like certain things, in specific cocktails or or I don't, lean towards other, products too. So it really just depends on the person.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like a lot of people have maybe gone down this path when it comes to tequila, but I went from, you have a margarita and you don't really, maybe you do taste the tequila, but of course that's not a tasting of a tequila, if you will, because it's with so many other things. And then, when it came to sipping, I would go for the aged tequilas. And then eventually I kind of worked my way to, maybe I had a bottle of Blanco that I was not going to make a whole cocktail. So I was like, whatever, I'll just try this, straight or maybe on the rocks. And so I've tasted enough of them that I know kind of the range. But what I would say about this one is it's more sweet than I typically get in a Blanco. Typically I get a lot of that vegetal flavor, that kind of like, freshness, if you will, the plantiness. Whereas this is shockingly sweet to me in a very, very pleasant way. I can imagine totally sipping this on some rocks and not really, wanting to throw it in a margarita necessarily.
Yeah, you definitely can. It's again completely up to the person, right? Like there are certain regions in Jalisco. So there's the lowlands and the highlands that tend to kind of lean towards the lowlands. It has to do with where it's placed on the volcano that's in tequila. So lowland tequilas tend to be more herbaceous. They tend to be earthier, while highland tequilas tend to be a bit sweeter, which is interesting because this is actually a lowland tequila. It's produced in the lowlands. So
interesting.
Yeah. So
and you said highland
fun.
is typically sweeter?
Yeah, it tends to be a little bit sweeter.
It's going to have more of a little citrusy, if you would, background to it, the highlands. So like Katie said, this is traditionally more herbal, more earthy. So now I have to try it because I haven't tried it in at least straight in quite a while. I drink it in margaritas all the time.
Well, hopefully you're not going to call me out for.
No, I'm
No, not at all.
just
No,
kidding.
not at all.
You might have a better palate with this than I do.
Well, yeah, and I don't necessarily get citrusy, and I mean on the nose it definitely has a decent amount of that kind of vegetal flavor. But I mean with no rocks or anything in there, this is quite drinkable for something that I feel
Absolutely.
like traditionally people might not pick up and think, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and sip this straight.
Absolutely. And the price point's fantastic, too.
And so, picking up the Reposado here, you look at it, and some Reposados have significantly more color than others. Obviously, It's quite variable in my experience. This one, being in a smaller glass, I think less of the color shows through, but you can definitely still see it there when you hold it up. Is this one that you personally go to?
I do. I think that it's, an easy drinker. It's something so what I tend to do is I will normally drink a Blanco in a margarita, Paloma, something of that nature. When I'm sipping, I really do land in that Reposado category. I like añejos, but I really kind of land in that Reposado category. And this is one that I do drink quite often.
Yeah, when I explain my trajectory of whiskey to tequila and whatnot, and typically when I'm going from whiskey back to tequila, I'll go with those higher age statements and kind of reduce that down. And then, as I mentioned, sometimes I'll even sip Blanco because I feel like in the middle of summer, you don't get, like immediately sipping this, I feel like almost like my pores are opening up with, not like I'm sweating like crazy, but I feel like I get that warmth a little bit more, that barrel warmth. And I don't know, it's shocking to me when you sip a tequila or sip any spirit for that matter. The strength of it makes it hard to kind of pick up a lot of those notes. I feel like the only way that you can really start building your palate is tasting them next to each other. And this one, it's hard to describe, specific flavors that are different between these two, but it's a noticeable difference, especially considering that this Blanco is the base for this Reposado.
Absolutely.
If you didn't know that it was from the same brand and you didn't have a trained palate, you might not pick up on that.
Yeah, I tend to find Reposados a little bit more round. So, Blancos to me tend to be more, crisp and bright. And I get that same warmth with a Reposado as well.
Yeah, and I think, when you hear spirits or any drink described as round, until you've tasted them next to each other, you don't know exactly what that is. Yeah. Yeah, these are fantastic. So, with the rest of your menu, you said you have 100 total tequilas?
Yeah, 100 total agave spirits.
Okay,
yeah.
Correct.
So, and I think about 10 of them are mezcal. Is that correct?
Look, what does it say on there for mezcals? If you go to the bottom category, there should be a mezcal.
As far as the total amounts that you have?
How many do we have up there?
Yes, I believe there are 10.
So we have 90 tequilas and then 10 mezcals. So we have 100 agave spirits.
Yeah, and I mean, just looking at this real quick, the affordability of a lot of these pours. I mean, you go to restaurants, and of course, margins are there on alcohol and whatnot. But I mean, $9 to $11 for most of what I'm seeing on here. And of course, you have some more fancy stuff, like you've got the Clase Azul, which, of course, comes at a pretty penny. But there's really a lot to choose from, and I think that's pretty cool that you guys do it that way. I imagine you do tequila flights. Is that a thing you guys do?
We do, yeah. And we can actually do a build your own flight. So we can do it either by family, or you can say, hey, well, I want to try, Siete Leguas Blanco. I want to try, Fortaleza Repo, or you can build your own, which is really fun to kind of try to cross between different types of brands.
Yeah, and I think it is cool the way that you've built this out, because you have so many different things to choose from. You could do a pure, at least I don't want to speak for you, but you could do a pure Blanco flight. You can mix it up between them, and
Absolutely.
that really gives you a unique opportunity to kind of taste through the different options that you guys have.
Luke, you mentioned the affordability of some of the tequilas. What's interesting, and like a lot of things, just because it's more expensive doesn't mean it's better.
Totally.
And we know that with, almost everything. Some of the more expensive tequilas are really, really good, but we have some very affordable ones here that I would drink just as right next to the one that's twice its cost. So
sure.
And what we try to do, we do have a lot of additive-free tequilas. That has become a more prominent thing, and we want to make sure that being the tequila house that we are, that we have all those options. And then we try to make a list 100 that our guests want. So, we have the bigger brands, the Casamigos that are in demand, and but we also have the Fortalezas like Katie meant. Those are harder to get, and what we try to do is when we do get them, we don't charge more than because it's a limited production or anything like that. We charge the price we've always charged based on our margins, and because we want people to try them. We want you to be able to get it for the right price and not have to pay a crazy amount for that, or G4 or Ocho or any of these additive-free tequilas.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because when you think about whiskey, there's so many extremely recognizable brands, and you got your Jack Daniels there, but then you've got like a Maker's Mark, right, which is affordable, very approachable, and it's all over the place. But like one that I've always been pointed to by more knowledgeable people than I is like El Tesoro, for example. And I think a bottle of El Tesoro Repo is like what, $75 depending on where you go. The fact that you can try that along a handful of others here and really get a taste for what types of tequila that you like and kind of fine tune those different tasting notes. Maybe you don't like barrel character and warmth at all. And like you mentioned, if someone typically orders vodka, they might go with Blanco.
Yeah.
I think, there's hubbub about, vodka being, gin is superior to vodka. I think a lot of people believe because it has the infusions and that added flavor. But I think, for me personally, I think tequila is superior over gin and vodka in my flavor palette because there are so many different notes. You can sip it straight. You can put it in a cocktail. And I think the fact that you can try, the different versions, like you could do a Fortaleza Blanco, you could do an El Tesoro Repo, and then pick something. You could even do an El Tesoro Añejo and pop through those different things and really find where you like to be.
Absolutely.
I think that's a very cool thing that you guys not only offer that, but at a very affordable price point from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And the complexity of tequila, I mean, vodkas and gins, and I like my vodka and gin sometimes as well, but they just don't compare. I mean, the complexity of tequila from the agave spirit, and the fact of the matter is these plants take 7-8 years to harvest, whereas corn or these other ones, they're, you can make it anytime. So there's a lot of craftsmanship and a lot of love, frankly, that goes into generations and generations of these tequila makers to get the product you're getting in a bottle, so that you can really taste through that and all the complexities and flavors you get out of it.
I think that's something that's super fun with tequila too, is just hearing about like the heritage and the story for the specific family that's been, creating it, making it, how it started. You really fall in love with brands because you fall in love with people. And I think that it is such a unique, business to learn about because it really is about people's families.
Well, and that's a point that I don't think you guys really dug into on the first section is, you mentioned that you visit the farms and whatnot, but besides maybe breweries, because there are so many breweries, tequila and agave spirits in general is so tied in large part to these smaller family operations. What is it like going down and visiting these different farms? How much of like a diversity in the size of operations have you seen?
It's amazing. So I've been down to, I think, 3 or 4 different, actually more than that, different brands. But I've been down to the small guys and the small batch, and I've been to, the big guys. I've been to Patron and seen kind of what they do, and then the differential between like a Fortaleza or a Don Fulano, these small niche brands, which it's really, really interesting, to hear about, really the differences in them, and how they're made and, where they come from. I had the ability to go down on something called the Bartender Work Program with Fortaleza. So I actually spent a week in Mexico with one of our bartenders and worked at the distillery. So we did a day of harvesting, we did a day of milling, we did a day of, distilling, and then we did a day of actually blending too. So it was really cool to kind of get in there and actually see what these guys do on a day-to-day basis, and what makes it so unique.
Sure. And I love that you guys invest in your team learning those types of things because the passion comes through. You explaining these things, I'm getting excited and I'm jealous that I haven't been able to go down.
It's one of the best experiences I've ever done. So they also do something called an industry trip where they'll take bartenders and servers down and show them not only their brands but also the culture and the heritage. Like you go to a lucha libre night and get to hang out and see what that's like, and it's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds like a spectacular trip. And really, like, what better way to experience a culture than not only to be immersed in the fun side of it, but also the work side of it. See how, at least in that specific field, how these people are operating on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
You take a stroll through, one of the agave fields, and you're out there and you're seeing what tequila is, and you meet these guys that their dads and their grandfathers are the jimadores. They're the ones who are harvesting the plants with these, a koa, which is basically like a flat shovel that they're hand harvesting over and over. And you get a real sense for the culture of what it means to these people.
And how hard work it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, really anyone in like the beverage industry producing stuff or the restaurant industry, it always inspires me because someone who's been on the outside kind of looking in, doing media and things like that, I appreciate you guys doing that level of work and going down and exploring so you can translate that to me, and all I have to do is come in and sip some tequila I like and hear you guys chat about it a little bit.
Well, I think you need to be on the next trip.
Yeah.
Send me the itinerary and I'll book the flight. Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be great. You'd love it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the flights. Do you guys do tasting dinners or anything like that, like special events built around tequila?
We do. So we do a number of events throughout the year. I think one of my favorites, and when I was a server, helped me learn about tequila was Passport to Tequila. We run it every summer. We're actually going to do it on National Tequila Day this year, which is, I believe, July 24th. And you get to visit with reps from each brand and taste through 9 different tequilas. So you'll get to taste through 3 different families with their 3 different expressions.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we are also doing tequila dinners this summer as well, which should be very, very exciting.
We do an agave fest, which is an annual thing that Katie puts on. And it's basically like the Passport tequila, but on
steroids.
It's a large one. We basically use the entire restaurant, take the dining rooms, the patios, and we set up different tequila companies set up in different areas, and you can go over there and immerse yourself in their brand, and then there's somebody there to educate you on the tequilas. It's really a good way to learn a lot about tequila. It's fun. We have music. There's entertainment.
We also
it's a good time.
Do it with Dia de los Muertos. So each tequila company actually builds an ofrenda as their booth. So not only are you talking about the tequila, that's really where the family comes in. Like, why is Ocho Ocho? Well, 8 is very important in that brand. And you get to learn, why is 8 so important? So, and we've had a number of different brands every year that come in and do it. But I think with, learning about the families as well and the culture and the heritage and all of that is really fun. And that's what that event is about.
And so that festival takes place in that Dia de los Muertos timeframe. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So it is the, I believe the Sunday before Halloween. So I think it's going to be October 27th this year.
Okay, cool. That will definitely be going in the email blast for A Taste of AZ. So if you're not subscribed to that, do that now at atasteofaz.com. Before we let you guys go, Rachel, I've been hogging the microphone a little bit. Which of these two do you like and why?
Well, I like them both individually for what they are. So the Blanco for me was really sort of floral. I don't want to say like lavender, but in that sort of realm of floral. Yeah. And I agree with you with the second one, which was, in my not knowing tequila, was that
Reposado?
Thank you. Definitely the wood is there. It's not profound like a Chardonnay perhaps or something like that. That's really, really barrel aged and oaked and all that. But I liked your description of roundness. That sits really well with me too.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I don't typically go to a Blanco for like a sipping tequila just because I like that barrel aged component in my spirits in general. But I'm very impressed by that one. I can't wait to come back sometime to dig into your list a little bit more, maybe even go the margarita route because they all look so delicious. But before we let you guys go, is there anything else you want to let the people know about cien agaves?
I don't think so. We're located right in the heart of Old Town Scottsdale. Come see us.
Yeah, absolutely. Any day of the week. You guys are open 7 days a week?
7 days a week and happy hour 7 days a week.
Wonderful. Yeah. I mean, this part of town is so cool because you can kick around and, it gets a little lively on the weekend if that's what you're looking for. But on your
Great
average
starter.
weekday, I suppose as long as there's not a spring training game going on, it can be more on the mellow side. So thank you so much for sitting down with us. I can't wait to get back soon. And thanks for pouring some glasses for us to try.
Yeah, my
for having
pleasure.
us.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Huge shout out to our friends at Cien Agaves for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking for a great spot to grab Mexican food for lunch or dinner, make sure to give them a visit. They've also got great cocktails, tequila tasting flights, and a variety of fun events throughout the year, including this upcoming Cinco de Mayo. Make sure to follow them on social media and check out their website. Thanks for joining us for today's episode.